Oh, hello, hello. We are here for video 2 of this series about getting your spending under control. So in my last video, I talked about budgets and where budgets can be a shortfall. So if you're here, we're here for the first step of, so what do I actually need to do to get my spending under control? All right, so if you haven't watched that first video, go back and watch that. All right, so let's talk about the truth is in the transactions. So if we haven't met before, my name is Bree Sedano. I'm a personal finance expert. The information that I'm teaching to you today, I have gathered from working with real life women, really reading the transactions, really doing the nitty gritty, not dirty work. We're just reading bank statements and stuff, but the nitty gritty work of getting people's money under control. And so this is coming from decades of experience and lots of, going deep with people. All right, so when we want to get control of our spending, we need to start by looking at the truth of where the money's going. And this means we have to really get into the transactions. Now, most people, when they start a budget, they're going to start with a blank sheet of paper and they're going to write down, all right, well, I want to spend this much on groceries and this much on rent and this much on my bills and and this is where I want my money to go. But that gives us no account of what's actually going on in the actual money. And I'm going to hate to break this to you, but everything that you think that you're spending your money on, you're probably at least a little bit wrong. And it's mostly just because human brains are not really equipped to carry the amount of financial knowledge that would need to be for accuracy. Like, it's just not going to work. There's all sorts of cognitive biases that get in the way of really clear accounting that would happen mentally. And so it's basically just off the table. So we have to get started with the transactions. Now, what I generally start for people is to track back 3 months of transactions, because that's going to give you a pretty good indication of the truth in your habits, the truth of your spending. There's going to be at least one holiday or one birthday. And so you can start to do this, because one of the things that people's brains love to do is they love to make spending special where they don't see it as like a thing, right? Like, so it's like, let's say you have a birthday party and you're like, oh, I'm not usually buying birthday gifts, so this birthday gift was like an anomaly. But really over the course of the year, you probably go to plenty of birthday parties. Or, this one time I just needed a dishwasher, that's a random purchase. And it's like, yeah, but household maintenance could probably just be some of what goes in to the plan. All right, so we have to get started there in the truth. Now, I want to warn you about a thing, because this is going to play into the second thing. So we have to think about what I call habit blindness. Now, habit blindness is when you're kind of reading through your transactions and you can't see anything that looks like a problem, right? Like, if you've ever had the experience of like opening up one of your statements and being like, my identity was stolen, like I've been robbed. But then you actually read through and you're like, oh no, we did that. We went there. We did that. We went there. We ate that. The kids needed shoes, whatever. I'm going to tell you a story how I figured out about habit blindness. So I had this couple in my office and they were 4 months into a 6-month contract to work with me to get their money under control. And they come in and they're fretting and they're like, Bree, we actually have to not continue our engagement because we don't have the money. Like, we literally can't do it. And I'm, by then we'd been seeing progress. They were making progress on debts. Like, there was a lot of stuff going in the right direction, but their cash flow was really tight. So they were feeling the pinch. And so anyways, we get into their transactions and I can see, I'm like, all right, well, I'm like going through and I'm counting up Marshalls, Home Goods, Pier 1, I'm like, all right. So I'm looking, I'm like, hey, you spent $600 shopping this month. And she's like, what are you talking about? No, I didn't. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm looking at the transactions. So you did, right? So we can see that every Tuesday there's 2 to 3 transactions. All right. Now her husband also had some habit blindness, but his was a little easier to he sorted it out because everything that he was buying was mostly sandwiches. So I was like, what'd you get at Jersey Mike's? And he was like, a sandwich. So anyways, I was asking my client, I said, well, so what'd you get at Pier 1? And she was like, I don't really remember. And I was like, all right, well, what'd you get at Home Goods? And she wouldn't remember. If the transaction was less than $42 for this particular woman, and everybody's number for habit blindness would be different, she couldn't remember. She made that purchase on autopilot, right? So she had habit blindness. She wasn't consciously thinking as she made the purchase. She just bought the thing. So if it was less than $42, she forgot what she bought. If it was more than $42, she remembered what she bought. Now, the point here is that a lot of our spending happens on autopilot. So when we're looking at, we have to look at the transactions because otherwise we literally just won't remember. All right. So understanding habit blindness is going to be one of the keys that's going to be really important. Now, the next thing that we need to do when we're looking at our transactions is we need to look through a lens of habits and behaviors rather than necessarily dollars and cents. So let me give you an example. So I had a client who told me that she was spending $250 a week on groceries. And I said, okay. But this wasn't my first rodeo, so I knew she was wrong, right? So we get into the transactions and I'm looking at her grocery store purchases and I'm seeing more like $500 a week on groceries. And I said, well, listen, you're not spending $250 a week. The missing money, the money that you think is missing is at the grocery store. That's where we're at. And I could see that every Sunday, though, there was a transactions for $250. So she remembered that, right? That was conscious. But then on Monday, there'd be a purchase for $40. And on Tuesday, there'd be a $36 purchase. And on Wednesday or Friday, because she was just running to the store all the time. All right. What I want to point out is that if I was to say, all right, cut your grocery budget back down to the $250 that you think it is, that's not going to help because she was a smart woman. She could already sort that out on her own. What we actually need to do is start to look at these spending through a lens of habits and behaviors. So what I suggested was cut your grocery spending, your grocery shopping down to one time per week. Make a list. Go to the store one time per week. Don't necessarily worry so much about keeping it to the $250 because we have a lot of wiggle room to still save money. So make sure that you have everything that you need. And I said, and if you forget something, if it's an absolute emergency, sure, go get it. But otherwise, just wait until next week. Like sort it out. Like now, no one was going to starve in this woman's life, right? So I could give that suggestion that, the pantry wasn't bare or anything. So we want to focus on the habits rather than just the dollars and cents. Now, another thing that we want to consider as we're deciding what habits to change is time, money, and energy. Now, we want to see how we can get time, money, and energy back, right? So if we think about going to the grocery store, let's call it 5 days a week, for this client. So she was spending $500 when she thought she was spending $250. She was probably spending almost 5 hours because by the time she got in her car, got to the store, went to the store, got back to her house, it was like a 25-minute drive for this person. So even a quick run to the store really cost her quite a bit of time, quite a bit of gas, quite a bit of the mental energy, and caused a lot of decision fatigue. So this same woman, when we really look at what else is going on in her life, she was living in a very often state of overwhelm. And we can see that because the grocery store wasn't the only place that she was doing a lot of extra work. So if we can focus on the behaviors on getting time, money, and energy back, we're more likely to get out of those states of scarcity and we're more likely to be able to stick to our plan. So again, I'm going to tell you a little bit about a course that I've made. It's called Find Your Bleed. Now, this course is the exact process that I've taken my clients through. I've done it with hundreds of clients one-on-one. We've sold more than 10,000 courses of this. I have so many stories and testimonials about how much money people have saved by going through this exact process. And the thing about it that it's really special is it works. It works. It's based on human behavior. It's based on human psychology. I've tested it with lots and lots of people. So I just want you to know that that's available to you in case you want to get nitty gritty. You want all the worksheets. You want, the full information, because obviously we can't do everything here on YouTube. So you can go to the description and everything that you need to know is there. All right, so let me tell you about what we're going to do next. So once you start to understand what's going on in the transactions and you evaluate your habit blindness and you start to look at your spending through a lens of behaviors, habits, number of times, time, money, energy, this is going to give us some indications on what we can do to actually start to get control of our money. And we want to do this in a way where we can minimize restriction and not do it in ways that really feel like scarcity and really feel like, austerity or wearing a super tight belt. And the reason that we don't want to go in that direction is because if you're trying to build a life of abundance, you can't get there by taking a lot of scarcity-based actions. All right, so we always want to value intentionality. We want to value purpose, delight, like the actual joy of our purposes over just dollars and cents. All right. So in the next video, I'm going to go through part of the process of how to actually get control over the money. All right. So I love you so much. I hope that you check out the Find Your Bleed course, and definitely come see me in the next video. And I just want you to know that I care about you, and I just want you to be very, very rich. All right.